institutionalized
All of
child
our energy
labor.
would be produced by the degens who we've thrown in giant
George
hamster wheels.
Lucas has no
Last
balls.
time on your Pokemon adventure, you were on your way to go suck a cow's teats and
I
hope
don't
it doesn't
think they
kill
ever
you.
just were stabbing people on the
I don't know
like,
if you would go to heaven after that. Hello, welcome to Last Three Brain Cells. My name's Lucas. I'm here with Jeremiah.
Hey, what's up?
Cool. And Sammy.
Where's my beer? I'm here. Damn it.
I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, I think I should go grab it. It's calling my name.
Well, if you have a second, you can run over there while I explain what we're doing today.
What are we doing
He's going to
today?
bring us down. He's going to bring us down to the last two brain cells.
Yeah. I don't know if mine's functioning. We might already be down to one.
You know, 3 was a crowd anyways.
Yeah, bit crowded. So today, just as for a pilot, I have a nice list of 69 questions, the ideal number.
Nice.
Nice.
It was 71, and then I killed 2 questions to make sure we had the best number.
How
I've got a random number generator here, 1 through 69, and so we can just go through some of these questions. I know Jeremiah and Sammy don't really know each other that well.
Yeah, no, not except for the preliminary discussion that we had about this series.
This shall be a good time indeed, yes.
It was a good time indeed.
So this is a good chance for all of our collective 3 brain cells to connect and form our little electronic circuit thingamabob.
Now, I do want to know, with those 2 questions, how did you, when you killed him, was it like behind the shed? Was it like in the library with the candlestick? Like, I want some more deets on that.
Okay, so I took each of them to the library.
I thought it was the
to
study.
the place of joy.
Yeah, no, that's an important distinction. Was it the library or the study? Because a lot of people mess that up.
No, I took them to the library. I took them to a nice, quiet study room. I gave them some good pets, rubbed their heads, and then I put a 9mm in.
That's oddly specific. Wait, you...
Why are you so... Oh, yeah, that's a... You know that people survive that, right?
That sounds pretty
Pets.
intimate.
I double tapped.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Pretty intimate.
Okay, the biggest problem was cleaning up the study room afterwards, because libraries are supposed to be quiet, and I can't afford silencers, so...
Hey, just as a point of fact, 9mm probably wouldn't leave you with a very big mess. Like, if you want a big mess, you gotta go with the 45.
I'll make sure to do that.
I'll
just
take this...
find an assault rifle.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to be like, yeah, this is supposed to be an entertaining podcast, and this got real dark real sudden, so, trigger warning, I guess.
All right, well, I'll try to keep it PG from here on out. Try not to go so dark there.
Hey, one of the 2 questions I took out had pegging in it, so the one promise I can make is this is a peg-free podcast.
Wow.
And yet it still made it on to the show.
And I was over here saying, oh, I'll keep it PG-13X, and you did that for me, so.
All right. Glad we all have reached an understanding. Let's go ahead and get this. All right, so random number generator. Number 9. Lamest place you've ever been and why?
Ooh. Lucas, college comes to mind. That place where we met so long ago.
Yeah, a lot of bugs on TU campus.
Okay, TU. Like, I'm sorry, where did you guys go?
University of Tulsa.
Okay, but, like, it's boring because of the, like, lame because of the bugs, or lame because it was, like, college?
It's like a small university, so not as much going on, not as big of sports as, like, like, for example, KU.
Okay.
Pretty easy to have, suffer from existentialist crises and extreme boredom and nihilistic purviews of life. But it was still a college experience.
While I did get that, the campus is very pretty, so a lot of late night walks, considering the universe and the end of everything.
Yeah. And when he says the campus is really beautiful, he's talking about the architecture, not the people.
Oh, well, I mean, you did say it was like in the middle of the country, and that tends to be a little less, I don't know, it just is. I used to live out in California, and my friend told me when I moved back, he's like, "You're gonna notice now." Like, what am I gonna notice? You're gonna notice everybody's got an additional like 70 pounds in the Midwest. I'm like, there's no way. And the day I got back to the Midwest, we went to the Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo, and I called him, and I'm like, "You were right." It's just like a weird thing. Okay, where's the lamest place I've ever been? Man. I'm trying to think. It's probably McCook, Nebraska.
What?
And if you've got to be like, where's McCook? Like, exactly. Like, most people don't even go to Nebraska. And then you've got like everything on the eastern side. It's like Omaha. There's Lincoln, which is where the University of Nebraska is. And then it gets to like more Nebraska things. It's like, where's Grand Island? When you get to that part of Nebraska in the middle, it's like, you don't even say where you're from. You say how far away you live from Grand Island. And then the last bastion is Kearney. Kearney's where the last like university is on I-80. And then everything else is just going to Colorado. So McCook is in the Panhandle. So it's not in Colorado. So it's just kind of like...
Interesting.
To be fair, I don't think even after listening to you talk just now, I would be able to name a single place in Nebraska.
Omaha.
Okay, I can name one.
Yeah. Give yourself a little credit.
Yeah.
Maybe
Lincoln.
like couldn't name 3. Yeah, couldn't name 3. Can anyone say any of the other things I named?
I'm definitely gonna remember.
There you go. See, we're at 3. So we've increased it.
Yeah.
But yeah, McCook. They've got some good food there, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a small town, couple thousand people.
What type of food do they have there? Is
Well,
it like southern style?
They just like different stuff. They had a good brewery there. It's like where this train station used to be. My aunt and her family lives out that way, so when we went to go visit for Christmas, she took us over there, and like it was like really good pizza. And I've been to some places with some bad pizza, so.
So you go to a train so you can get railed in more ways than one.
Well, train station.
Hey-o!
So, yes.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to do the next question, Jeremiah?
Well, sure. Unless Sammy's got anything more to add about, like, did you ever go to a place that was lamer than TU?
I feel like I've been to individual locations that were more lame, but they're not coming to mind. So if I think of something, I'll jump back in with an outburst.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Let's see what question number 2 is. Man, we're staying near the bottom of the track. We got number 15. I just closed that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
First 3 things you would do if you became a dictator of your own small country.
I love this question.
I think that the floor is yours, man.
Okay, well, I'm wondering if we should start with the best things or the worst things, you know?
Would you be a good dictator, or would you be a bad dictator? How would you define that?
I think by the nature of being a dictator, you're already in dictator realm. Like, to me, that's a negative.
Well, I mean, I'd be a benevolent dictator.
Like, a monarchy is either the best form of government or the absolute worst, and it all depends on whether you're a good monarch or a bad monarch. It's like democracy's the safe middle zone where we don't function very well, but we also don't have to worry about being beheaded on the street.
But a monarchy isn't the same as a dictatorship.
What's the difference? It's one person who holds all the power.
Yeah, that's a great difference. I think the answer to that is actually that monarchies are like supposed to be like appointed by a higher power.
And also, you normally see some type of parliamentary government aspect to a monarchy, where there's a dictator is basically one guy and the military who enacts all of his bidding.
Okay, so my first act as a monarch would be executing all of Parliament so that I can effectively be a dictator.
Okay, so we've answered question number 70. What would you do if you were a monarch? Okay.
Oh.
Cool. Man, 2 versus 1
Wow, so
stone.
much forethought.
That's why I took it to the library. And
Okay, Sammy, so you have clearly already thought about this.
I have thought about this. So as a totally non-crazy person, I think there are 3 things I would do that would go on some order of absolute craziness. So I think the craziest thing I would do is have some sort of institutionalized child labor. Now hear me out. It wouldn't necessarily be child labor, but like...
Well, hold on. Wait, you're starting off with it wouldn't necessarily be.
Because, okay,
they wouldn't necessarily be harmed in the process.
So here's the thing.
We don't know that.
It would only be...
very safe.
It would be institutionalized.
Diapers at every station.
So no. The earliest you could go would be like, say, late elementary school, early middle school, when you're like, you're 9 years old, you can take directions, and for the most part, you're in charge of your faculties, right? Barring people who, for one reason or another, really could not do this type of work. It'd just be simple and safe, like assembly line jobs. Like, hey, you just teach the kids, hey, put these 2 Legos together and then put them back on the line, right? Some stuff like that. Maybe some product testing stuff. Where it's like, hey, kids, today we're going to try out a new toy, right? Nothing too crazy, right? Something for maybe an hour, maybe 2 different shifts, right? There would be a recess area and like food breaks, right? There would be a whole like session where you talk to like a therapist, and people can actually check in and see how the kids are doing, right? Never in like a dangerous scenario where there's like pinch points or like stuff like that, right? I think it would help some of the people in the lower class in terms of childcare and daycare, right? Because now your child is in a safe and supervised place while you're, trying to work as many jobs as you need to make ends meet. I mean, also we could talk about increasing minimum wage to an economically sustainable point, right? But that's a whole other situation. And, as you grow up, you basically, by the time you get to high school, you already have trade skills. You have high schoolers in some places of supervision where it's like, all right, you already have experience watching over children, right? So by the time you go to university level, you already have skills. If you don't want to go to university, you already have trade skills that you can bring to whatever trade, right? All right, you're a high schooler, it's your sophomore year. Maybe you're already doing apprenticeships with electricians and plumbers, and stuff in construction. So by the time that you are at the age where you can decide to go to college or not, you have skills, you can already make some sort of living for yourself. And I think it'd be a great way to train the youth, instill good values like hard work, duty, deadlines and stuff, but do it in a very protected, supervised, institutionalized and regulated way that could, build some good citizens. That's what I'm saying. You could call it like, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the we're talking about basically like kid internships.
So let me clarify here. Your first act as a dictator would be to do a slight altering of the American educational system.
Sure.
Just like, hey, STEM classes, well, we're just gonna take out like music and we're gonna replace it with applicable trade skills.
Right.
How to be an effective factory worker from the age 10.
And that's the thing where it's like, depending on what you want to do, and it wouldn't have to be absolutely mandatory. If you're a person who, wanted to pursue a field, there would be opportunities for you to pursue that field, right? If you're like, hey, I don't feel like doing this, it's like, all right, well, here are a myriad of other fields that you can try. Maybe you intern at like like a videography company and you learn how to use cameras and stuff. Maybe you intern at like a science facility and you learn about beakers and explosions. I don't know what science people do. I just have my degree in that field, but whatever.
Today, we will learn how to build bombs. Some of you may not have fingers, but worst case scenario, if you lose a finger, you get extra pudding cups for the next month.
See, this is why we have regulations, so stuff like that doesn't happen.
It's the interesting thing there is I think you've just described, like, in a way, Germany's education system.
I mean, they have experience on, a wide spectrum of government.
Well, they do that, like, in middle school age, they start to be like, hey, you know what, here, you're going to go to some trade schools. Hey, you'd be great at this. And they just, like, prep you for life, unless you're going to go into a field of interest in the university level.
Now, my question is, because you can make laws and structures, but how are those going to be enforced? What if you have a kid who just wants to, do nothing and has no interest? What direction do they go in life, and how are they, nudged along in that direction?
Well, the cool thing is that they'd still be able to contribute to society even if they don't want to do anything. Because at the end of the day, it's like when you have a system in which everyone's effectively useless, nothing gets done. No longer, you don't have any goods or services left to provide because no one's doing anything, right? So if you wanted to be like a complete degen, right, I'm sure that there are certain facets where we could, I don't want to say put those people to work, but utilize their wantingness to exist simply and borderline meaninglessly.
You know what? Actually,
hey, I'm still a dictator here, okay?
I think that that line of thought has given me what I would do. I've already said dictatorship, not my style of leadership. But if I was a dictator, you know what? The place I ruled would go green. How would we go green? All of our energy would be produced by the degens who we've thrown in giant hamster wheels.
Yeah, throw them in a hamster wheel. At least they're doing something.
Do they get healthcare though?
Everyone gets healthcare.
No, their healthcare is you run in here or you don't get fed.
Okay, maybe that.
Are you gonna give them a little water?
Like I'm a dictator, like, whatever, for the betterment of the rest of society. Like everyone else will be like, well, what do you do if you're a useless member of society? Like, oh, well, they'll go make you useful by having you run on the hamster wheel. Like, do they get healthcare? Like, I don't know, but we get free power. They make the Wi-Fi run.
I mean, we need healthcare for the hamsters because they make the Wi-Fi run. You gotta take care of your hamsters.
Now, hamsters are cannibalistic. So
you keep going all these dark places.
No, it's just like, okay, so hamsters' mothers will often eat their kids. In a similar way, can parents send children to the hamster wheel as punishment? Like, you've been grounded a couple of times and you haven't learned your lesson. Time to go provide for our great dictator, Jeremiah.
I mean, a temporary punishment would be absolutely terrible. Temporary.
So would the parents designate a certain time period under which... I mean, those kids don't have healthcare, though, as we've established. So what happens if the kids, trip and fall and break their face or something?
Yeah, give them a little healthcare.
Yeah, if you have a broken face, you still got working legs.
Do we have privatized, healthcare? Can the hamsters use their parents' healthcare to, even if they are just, a degenerate hamster?
Hey, look, man. This is the great part about being a dictator is I don't have to put in all these like rules and laws. I can just be like, today I feel like that kid's fine. You're getting on my nerves. Away with you to the ocean. Take him to the farm by the ocean.
All right. So I think my first act as dictator is I would find the most enthusiastic person to address the problem of overpopulation. and tell them to go fix it.
But what if they develop a conscience that prevents them from making hard decisions?
What if they already had a conscience that prevents them from making hard decisions?
Well, I would go for someone who is eager, so they probably need the power emotionally, or they don't have emotions. And if they fail me, I'm a dictator. I can just, send them to the library and get a new one.
I like how we've just reached a point where we solve all of our issues by saying, hey, I'm a dictator.
See, because I know I don't know enough to solve all these problems. I can see things like, oh, there's a lot of hobos in this park, and I can come up with a solution. Probably not a good solution. Hamster's wheels would be a good solution for that. But it'd be easier if I just find people who know more and lack the consciousness that I might have to solve all the problems for me. I would have my small council, like in Game of Thrones. They would all have their different delegations. And if they make me unhappy, well, I'm the king. I can just... The library will become a very... It's like you either know what you need to in order to do your job, or you're gone, You send people to the library to learn things.
I think Sammy made the best point that now we're just solving our problems. Like, hey, I'm the dictator. I get to do what I want. That's I think we've fallen into the trap of modern dictators. Like, just I get to do what I want. Like, whatever.
I'd also put most of the money into my military, because you gotta have a strong peacekeeping force in order to make sure that your citizens are happy and obedient.
And that your hamster wheels are running.
If the hamster wheels stop, then so does the whole society, and everything falls apart. And then I don't get to play God anymore, and I don't like that.
We've risen up from
I
man
would be a God
to monarch
king.
to God.
I would
love
king.
this for us.
I would be the Jesus of that society.
Oh my.
Except instead of, promoting good things like peace, I would promote obedience. I would promote fitness, though. That's what hamster wheels do. Obesity would not exist because no one would have enough food to become obese, except me.
So one obese person would exist.
I don't think it's physically possible for me to be obese.
Lucas, where there's a will, there's a way.
I have such a low, hunger drive. I don't know how to describe it. I don't think...
Appetite?
There we go. Master of words.
And yet, every time I see you, you're just grabbing food.
Well, that's because that's the first time I've eaten all day.
Oh, because it's the first time you've left the house?
I don't have a house, but yes.
You left the domicile?
Oh, there we go.
The domicile. I think that's the other thing, though, where it's like, one of the biggest issues that I feel like we have often in civilized society is that we want to respect people's rights, but then it's like, how can I when you're in a room of people and everybody wants to do the right thing, and you don't have the ability to overwrite a person who is simply either being non-contributing or actively acting against the greater good, and you're not willing to go against them. It's like, what do you do, right? That's one of the tough things about being in a democracy, where it's like, hey, we have a lot of great things we want to do, but sometimes there are people who are acting against the more wholesome agenda. And when you lack the ability to find an agreement with the people who are going against everything you want to do, you reach a standstill, more or less, right? And we can talk about all the moral gray areas of like, hey, here's a good thing I want to do that might actually be terrible for a different person or a different group of people, right? But there are certain, as we like to say in the States, unalienable rights and atrocities that were like, oh, this doesn't fly no matter what. But then it's like you get into the weeds, about stuff like that. And in situations like that, assuming that the person is benevolent, a dictator would be pretty nice. Just be like, hey, sit the down, we're doing this. Hey, this didn't work. Let's try something else, right? Um,
Isn't there like a book called The Prince? I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it.
oh, Machiavelli?
Machiavelli.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't he just like talk about different forms of government in that? And
Yes, but The Prince also, like, people take it as like a treatise on like, yes, this is how I should run things, and it's like a satire.
Yeah.
Like low-key.
All right. Well, collectively, we have three good first orders. Child labor. Happy about that. Hamster wheels. Not exclusive with the first one. And, establishing a small council to handle a lot of problems.
I feel like the small council thing is like, it's just delegation. It's not necessarily dictatorship.
That's what you do as a ruler. You delegate your duties onto other people.
Well, yeah.
Under pain of death.
Okay, the pain of death thing makes it a little more clear.
It's like, I just need to figure out, like, okay, this person handles a lot of the finances. This person handles child labor. This person handles healthcare, if it exists. And, so on.
It exists!
This person handles the dishes.
Hey!
Yeah. I'll let you do that. No.
I love doing the dishes, so I'll accept. Under pain of death.
I would need to find someone to act as Hand of the King. But it need to be someone that I trusted, but also would be willing to kill at any time.
I'm not going to lie. When I hear Hand of the King, I think of a guy where you're just like, I'm the dictator. I don't wipe myself anymore, so that's what the Hand of the King does.
They can serve multiple functions.
Right, but they also need a will to kill, so it's like, hey, Hand of the King, because he's with you at any time.
They get so degraded and embarrassed from having to wipe my posterior.
No, why would they?
Then that gets the rage inside for them to be able to do the despicable things that they need to.
Maybe in your dictatorship, in mine, that's an honor. They get to wipe the posterior, the derriere of the sole dictator.
The glutamus maximus.
Well, strictly speaking, the glutamus maximus is like your butt cheeks, so
the royal, if you will.
I don't want him wiping that
they
part.
Get to wipe the anus.
if that person took the Hand of the King, took like a nice like warm towel, like the one that they put on your face when you're getting your hair cut, it'd be great.
Now you're just making me think like
a masseuse.
You also have to have like the Hand of the Queen, and their job is to just like pat the Queen's ass and make sure it's just supple, and just hiring the right person for that job would just be hilarious.
I feel
it's
like
a once in a generation thing.
Would just handle the time of the month stuff. I feel like that would be a full-time job.
I feel like see, now I feel like we're getting into the weeds on the king and queen discussion. Like, man,
and why does it have to be a queen?
I think the Hand of the Queen should check both monarchs' suppleness of their bouteilles.
Now you're just trying to overwork your populace. You never last as a dictator.
Again, come back to I'm a dictator. Like, what are they going to do? Kill me? They might.
I do think, like Game of Thrones, all of my small council would need, like, pins. Particularly the Hand of the King. It'd be like that hand, but there would be, like, toilet paper.
Like sitting at the fingertips?
Yeah.
Would that make the foot of the king like your personal like messenger, or would they just be the person who like does cardio for you?
I think the foot of the king is definitely the messenger. Like, hey, Hand, what's up? Like, shut up.
No, the foot of the king for me would be the person who takes people to the library.
The foot of the king takes you there. The Hand of the King does the job.
Well, the Hand of the King, the toilet paper would have like a tear in it because every once in a while he has to get his hands dirty.
No. That would be the guy who leads the revolution against you.
I agree.
That's why he would have to be someone I trust, but also would be willing to kill.
What if they're willing to kill you?
That's okay.
This person could make the hard decisions.
Well, I just need to be able to make the hard decision of at what point do I need a new Hand of the King.
You know, I think through this whole discussion, I finally understand Jaime Lannister, so.
I mean, spoiler, he does.
Spoiler for a TV show and book series that has been out for like 10 years.
I've never finished that show. I
don't
know
serious?
if I will.
What is wrong with you?
No, I'm still like halfway through season 7.
You're
I'm not
monster.
gonna lie. I only got through season 3, and then I was like, I'm good. And people were like, you want to come over and watch the Game of Thrones party? I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
You're all
gotta
monsters.
finish through season 4. The end of season 4 is my favorite part about Game of the Thrones. At least so far, through like halfway through season 7.
Yeah, but now there's enough of it that I'm like, there's all that. It's like when I didn't watch Lost when it came out, or Breaking Bad, and people are like, hey, this show is amazing, you gotta go watch it. There's like 7 seasons. It's like 100 hours of entertainment. Like, that's a big commitment for me.
That's another show I should start sometime. Lost.
Yeah.
Sammy, what's a show you've always wanted to start that you've just like had a reservation like that on?
I would say Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead. I think a couple months, if not a few years ago, I got 15 minutes into the first episode of The Walking Dead, and I'm just like, not today.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I got like 30 more minutes. Like, I gotta go to work. I gotta go clean the dishes.
Yeah, I gotta go do like the rest of my life.
Right. I understand that.
I got bored of The Walking Dead after like 2 seasons. It just felt like the same thing over and over again.
I do want to give it another try eventually.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I watched the first episode like when it came out on AMC, and I was like,
So how many decades ago was that?
I don't know. That was like early 2000s, right? Or mid 2000s. It's like 2006, 2007. I don't know. We probably look it up, but yeah, I remember when that was. But yeah, I watched it because I watched the first episode of Breaking Bad as well. And I think we stopped like, it was back in the day where you still paid for cable. I mean, I think people still do. Oh, really? 2010?
Yeah, it's not as old as you thought.
Well, I mean, it's still 12 years old.
I mean, if it was a child, it wouldn't be able to vote, so.
By the definition of it being a child, I think that's.
It would be young enough, it'd still be cute, and that would almost make up for how annoying they are.
One more time for the people in the back.
Dang. You know, actually, thinking about shows you never finished, I am a huge Avatar The Last Airbender fan. Whoa. I finished Avatar The Last Airbender, but I watched like The Legend of Korra as it came out. I even own like the every season box set. I still have never watched the 4th season. I've never like completed the series. Of like after season 3, like I'm good.
Not sure how much you're missing out on there, bud.
See, and that's what I've heard. Like I've heard that repeatedly. So like when me and my girlfriend were watching the series, because she had never watched both series all the way through, so we sat down and watched them both. I was like, we got to get at least through the end of season 3. She's like, are we going to watch 4? And I'm like, let's see when we get there. And once we got through the end of season 3, she's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm good. I'm like, yeah, I'm good too.
I have very strong feelings about the 2nd season of Legend of Korra.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not good, in my opinion. I mean, you got anything to tack on there, Sammy?
I'd be hard pressed. I think for what it was still entertaining. Did I absolutely need to see it? A few scenes were absolutely worth it. The ending was very controversial, and I'm on the side of that it wasn't as great as it could have been. I think it's still worth the watch, at least to finish it out. But if you had better things to do, I can't tell you to sit down and do it.
Right. When was the last time you guys like watched it through? Like,
oh, it's been years. I never finished the 4th season either.
I watched it when it came out. I finished it when it around like within a couple months of it being done. So like I was around for the whole Twitter outrage and all that.
See, and I even missed that because I missed the whole 2nd season and then watched it like when the 3rd season was coming out. But we, at the start of COVID, when we were like locked up, that's when we watched the series. So like it's still pretty fresh in my mind. And I remember just being like, oh, like you can definitely tell this series was renewed a season at a time instead of being like, here, you're going to do all this. Because like that first season, while it's rushed, it feels like if they had just like teased that out to like a 2-season runtime, it would have been like really great. Because some of the moments that they don't like let you have time to breathe for, or like some of the things that should hit, like Asami's dad being the bad guy. Like if you had a whole season to like gain his trust, and then 2nd season, like bam, he's actually bad. Like that'll gut punch you.
Yeah,
but it has all these great moments, just not enough time to like build into them. So I think if that first season was 2 seasons instead, it would have been just right there. That story, that core story is actually like pretty good.
Yeah, I like the first season of Legend of Korra the best of the seasons. I think it should have ended there. The only reason I would want it to continue into the 2nd season is because Varric is my favorite character, but he 100% should have been the villain.
Do the thing!
Season. Yeah, he should have been the main villain. And the fact that half of the season was spent teasing him as a villain and building him up to be the villain, and then there was no payoff on that, is I think the biggest thing that makes the 2nd season such a disaster. There's a lot of other things, like the I don't remember which pole he is, the spiritual guy who's trying to open the portal, being, incredibly boring. But Varric they had a chance to hit a home run with that character, but he needed to be the villain. He needed to be a really important part of how the season finished, and they just, couldn't commit to that. Or didn't want to.
He's like Scrooge McDuck. Like Scrooge McDuck, to me, should always have been like revealed as a bad guy, but instead he's just kind of goofy.
Yeah, that also makes me think of Darth Jar Jar, which is the only other instance that I can think of with a bigger missed opportunity.
Well, at least they made up for it. Season 3, Zahir, is like the only reason to watch Season 3.
Oh, Zahir was an amazing villain. Hell yeah.
Right. What makes it really painful going back and watching it is all of the villains are so well defined. They show up. A lot of their sequences are done like wordlessly, and they have all this great character development for the villains of that season. And then every time they cut back to like the gang, it's just like painful writing and like the same things that they overcame the last season. You're like, oh my God, we just cut back to the villains again. So it's like this unfortunate juxtaposition of like cringe and then like, wow, this is dope.
I agree with that. I feel like a lot of the screen time for Legend of Korra wasn't really spent most effectively.
Yeah.
Or spent on story arcs and ideas that were just kind of meh.
Well, I mean, again, like the first series, like they got the 3 seasons locked in. Like, that's part of like showbiz, right?
Yeah,
They were able to plan out like this arc that's complete, even if it didn't go quite the way they probably thought when they started season 1. They like come into their own. They still have all the beats, and then they're just filling in the rest as the story evolves. When you're renewing season to season, you don't have time. You're like, hey, I got to tell this story. What's the story?
Yeah.
And like, sometimes pressure can be a good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing. And, to those people's credit, I'm not saying like the writers and everybody who worked on it, like, oh man, you guys suck. It's just, they have their own circumstances that led to what was created.
Isn't Isn't the Dragon Prince by the same people who did Avatar: The Last
That
Airbender?
is true.
Yeah, it's by the same creators. So, like, the same showrunners, the guys who, like, came up with it. I only watched, like, 2 episodes of it, so I actually don't know what it's like. Have you guys watched it?
Yeah, it's good, but it's obviously for a younger audience.
Okay, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
The ideas about the world and the world building are really good. It's just the writing and dialogue is horrible.
Well, I mean,
some of like the monologues and things, you can't even explain it away as, oh, it's meant to be a kid's show. Because After Last Airbender was also meant to be a kid's show. If you look at those initial, like, first season, it's very much more of a kid's show than the rest of it. But it still had good writing. Versus the Dragon Prince has just terrible writing.
And what makes the writing bad is that it's very much like corny, overused, classic jokes, like the punchlines that you've seen in every kid show over the last 20 years. That's what made it bad. And, like, the exposition and monologues are, just so simple. Even though the characters are more complex in what they're saying, the dialogue very much dumps everything down. And that's where I feel like, oh, that's where you really feel like this is a kid show. Avatar, yeah, it was a relatively kid show, but but because of a higher level of complexity in the writing and dialogue, it made it, enjoyable for all ages. I had a family friend who, the kids watched the show, but then the parents got into it because of, the complexity of what was discussed and the complexity in the writing. But I would say you could dumb all the unfavorable writing and dialogue in Dragon Prince down to just saying it's for a younger audience and they're not trying to make it any more complicated than it already is.
Yeah, I mean, but again, like, I think that it's worth pointing out, like, when you're working on a show or you're working in that industry, like, you have a deadline. So sometimes your deadline, like, things turn out really great, and sometimes, you come out with something, like, average. It's actually, I feel like it's worth noting, going back to Korra really briefly, aside from just the writing, the show is cut in a way that every time they cut to commercial, it's like classic Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Like a quick half-second, like, fade out. And I don't know if Dragon Prince does the same thing, but it, like, definitely influences tone.
I would agree with that, yeah.
It makes me think there's a weird thing. So, have either of you ever watched Casablanca?
No.
You've heard of the movie, though?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
So it's regarded as, like, a modern classic, and people are like, look at how great this movie is. And it plays out, like, different from the movies of the time. It's faster. There's a whole bunch of interesting stuff. But the thing that I think is really interesting about the movie is the movie was supposed to be, like, not like an A-lister or not like a blockbuster. It was supposed to be just a quick thing they shot. And they put it together, like, really hastily, did it really quickly. And they weren't like, hey, we've made the best piece of media ever, or one that's going to be regarded, like, greatly for 100 years. They just made the movie, and they're like, well, it's out. And then just, like, all of the right things fell into place. Like, the editor who worked on it, the lighting director, like, and all the individual pieces ended up just gelling, right? And I think sometimes you just get that with a piece of media. Like, sometimes we're, like, working towards greatness. Not that nobody's not trying to work towards greatness, but, like, sometimes you just have all of these, like, odd factors that just play in, and you get, like, a really great piece of media. Kind of like, shifting gears a little bit, like, anime's got the whole sub versus dub thing, but the classic Cowboy Bebop, like, typically the English dub is, like, considered better, and it's just because of, like, the actors who gave really great performances. And then there's a weird case that the director for the English dub was, like, working on Xena Warrior Princess. She, like, fell off a horse, broke her leg, and, like, while she was laid up with her broken leg, like, that's the project she worked on. So it's like she didn't have anything else to do. She, couldn't get around, so she could just like pour into her work as something she could like go out on. So, there's like a whole bunch of like weird factors that in these stories behind the story,
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of sub versus dub, I think it's I usually prefer subtitles just because I like listening to it in the way that is originally intended to be viewed. But it really depends because there's a lot of really terrible dubs, and there's some shows with really great dubs. Shall we move on to another question? We kind of went on the show tune rants.
Sure.
Hey, that's the idea of these questions, though. Sometimes they inspire the show tune rant.
Indeed.
I didn't even get into Darth Jar Jar. That's one of the things that never happened that I'm really upset about.
You know
Yeah,
what?
we can skip over that.
George Lucas has no balls, and that's why he didn't commit to Darth Jar Jar.
You know what? I think that's a great
topic
thing
for
us
another
to
day.
return to another day. Yeah.
All right.
I've got a little like running notepad, and Sammy can't see it. I'll have to send him a picture later, but I've got this really pretty, like your grandmother would write her addresses in, like notebook here, because it's the only not filled notebook that wasn't dedicated that I had in the house. So it's going in the notes of things to go for later.
One is going to be an episode called George Lucas Has No Balls.
Yeah,
Let's see. I think you're gonna have
he does not have balls.
Again.
And I'll get into that another day. It's like how I hate Tom Bombadil and Twilight, but those are stories for another day.
Yeah, funny thing about that is, because I'm not going to go into it, but when we were doing our preliminary, we ended up like having a question about Tom Bombadil, and Sammy, I think you were the one who was like, "Who's that?" And Lucas and I just ranted for like 25 minutes.
That is completely accurate.
So anyway, the next question 25, who was your favorite starter in Pokemon?
Oh boy, let me tell you. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. Ain't nobody gonna convince me that you could get any better than my brother Totodile. Totodile, bro. Alligator on all fours, punch you in the face. Let's go.
See, I've almost never played Pokemon. The only Pokemon that I've played is the Pokemon Go to the polls.
You've been shortchanged of a lifetime, my friend.
So I don't even know Pokemon names. I don't think Pikachu's one of the starter Pokemon.
Nope.
Because he's one of the only ones I know.
I think Pikachu gets in on a technicality with Pokemon Yellow.
Very, very strict technicality. I guess. Yeah, it's one of those things where you'd also have to like region cap this question because it's like, oh, who's the best starter in Gen 1? Gen 1 and Gen 2. Everything, Gen 5 and before, because we don't really care about anything after that. Like, it's a loaded question.
Well, I know that for me, I only played, actually, it's weird, like in the last year, I finally played Pokemon Emerald. Like, I played Red and Blue, and I was Red, my brother was Blue. Like, Pokemon ended up being the perfect game for us as kids, because we actually could play them together, but have slightly different games. I hadn't even gone to Gen 3 until this last year. I will agree, Totodile's cool. I'm a Cyndaquil fan from that game, however. I'm a fire starter at heart. But,
That's kind of hot.
I think for me, part of the Pokemon debate for starter, it's like, well, hey, are you just talking about the starter strictly, or are you talking about its evolution chain?
That's a good point.
Starter Totodile, like, that's a pretty good one.
Totodile's a good all-around starter, like first and final form.
Right. I really like Cyndaquil, like as its cute form, and it's fine as it evolves. It just doesn't get any different, really. I'm a real fan of Emerald, though. Torchic, like once it turns to Blaziken, like there's something about like a Taekwondo, like fire
flaming
Pokemon
chicken.
that's really cool.
Dog, like the chicken cooks itself. What more do you need?
You know what? I never thought about that. A self-cooking chicken. Like, you're totally right. Yeah, that Torchic, it's like a one-biter. The Torchic, in terms of eating food, is probably like the marshmallow experiment straight out. Like, hey, do you want to eat this one marshmallow, this one Torchic, this one bite right now? Or do you want to wait for it to evolve into its second form where it's got those sweet drumsticks? What's great about this, because I can see Lucas's face, is he has no idea what these Pokemon look like. So he's just hearing us talk about, the sweet drumsticks. Like, he's like, what are you talking about?
All I know is that one of them looks like a chicken that's on fire, apparently.
That is Torchic.
That's what I've gathered. I also know from listening to something else that there is a Pokemon with boobs called Castform.
It doesn't have... No, it's a cloud, dude.
It's a cloud, dude.
They're cloud boobs. They might not be substantial, but aren't they?
Nope, they're not. It's just a cloud.
No. It's a really interesting Pokemon anyway, in that it
is, indeed.
It changes, like, its typing
based on the weather.
Like, yeah, and you can change that in a battle.
So it's like a prostitute saying whatever you want, babe.
No.
No, there's like some strict rules. It's like somebody who's like, no kissing, heavy petting's okay. I don't know. It's like there's some strict rules.
Yeah,
involved.
It's like no kissing on a Wednesday, no hand stuff if the sun's out, kind of deal.
If the sun's out. That's a great specific rule.
So, is it a creature of the night, then?
Nope.
No. It has, like, a daylight form. Like, it actually, like, is all sunny and bright.
So, it has a in the streets versus in the sheets.
You know what? I think that we found a great thing for Lucas to do is to play one of the Pokemon games. And we'll call it the Lucas Report, where you report on what's happened and give us your take on the game.
I like it.
All right. Because I legitimately don't know anything about Pokemon.
Yeah,
I know you throw balls at creatures and then you make them fight each other to the faint, which I guess is so that you don't have to say we killed these things.
Pretty much.
Sammy, what Pokemon game do you think that Lucas should start off with?
Okay, depending on what's available, I think as much as I want to give him like some of the best games to start with, I think something less amazing would be great so that the best games can, be known and respected as being the best games. So I would say a solid place to start would be Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and then from there, Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and then from there, maybe we start looking at probably Gen 5, and then swing back around to Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
You know what? I've heard that Heart Gold, Soul Silver is actually a wonderful game.
Yeah.
I forever have loved just the straight up Gold and Silver, but apparently in the community, like everyone agrees it's like the worst game.
Yeah, it's really interesting in that way. Like in the community, apparently Heart Gold and Soul Silver are regarded as two of the best games ever, especially as remakes. And then when Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby came out, they also like got themselves way up there as one of the best ever / best remake Pokemon games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of the remakes make sense. Like, as well as playing Pokemon Emerald, I played the Gen 3 return to Gen 1 of Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Yeah.
And like, you know what? Some of the quality of life updates were really great.
Amazing.
The one quality of life update I hated, but I'm sure some people loved, was when you boot up the game and it gives you a recap of your adventure.
Yeah, that was pretty
I was like,
annoying.
I just want to...
That's pretty
But
annoying.
you know what? That's good for some people though, like especially people who
If you haven't picked up the
like
game in a long time, that's really nice.
Well, it felt geared towards like a younger audience, like in the way that like, hey, you're in an RPG, here's what your objectives are. Like, so to remind you every time, like, hey, don't forget, here's your objective list, buddy.
Yeah. Last time on your Pokemon adventure, you were on your way to go suck a cow's teats and hope it doesn't kill you.
Wow, are we really going to talk about Whitney's Miltank?
Yeah, we're going to talk about how Whitney had absolutely nothing, and all the thictitude and attractiveness went into the monster she sent out to destroy your team.
Wait, whoa.
Lucas, you're just going to have to play it.
We're just going to have to play the game, man.
On board. I am a little curious now.
So, like,
don't look it up on the internet. You just got to play it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think, because as somebody who jumped into Pokemon Emerald, I think that I didn't know that the gym leaders are a little harder, a little more difficult, that jumping into, like, Omega, or jumping into Ruby or Sapphire would be the way to go for Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but this might be the only Pokemon game I play, so I wouldn't hold back on we don't want to give you the best yet. Because
well, the thing about Sapphire and Ruby that make them so good is that they're great. Like, they explain everything to you, but they don't like hold your hand too much.
Yeah, definitely.
They're just like an interesting region. Like, it's after all the Pokemon games I've played, being only Gen 1, 2, and 3, it's probably the best starting place.
I would have to agree.
All right, I'll have to get started on that.
I feel like we should pull up really quick, like, just pictures of all the best starter Pokemon to come back to this question, and just have you look at them and just eyeball it and be like, I like that one.
Yeah, we have to give him all the first forms first for him to pick, and then we have to give him all the final forms for him to pick.
So before, after seeing the second form?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here. So let's answer this while we're pulling this up. Is Sammy, what's your favorite final evolution? Like, favorite final?
I think in my head I'm trying to do process of elimination of which ones look absolutely stupid and then which ones I felt were absolutely useless. Like, it's really easy to look at Gen 1 because, Charizard's a classic. But final form, I'm still rocking hard with Feraligatr, but if that's off the table, since I already brought him up, I would have to say, I have a special spot for Blaziken and Sceptile just because of my childhood. But I think off of design, I really like Empoleon. He just looks like a royal dick who's a penguin, but he's also got the power to back it up.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't go to that generation, so I'm just looking at them now, and out of that generation, I think the giant turtle is
also a pretty dope design, I will admit. Granted, personally, I had beef with him in the beginning, so that's the only reason why it's a no for me, but I did grow to respect him in the end. There's some character development there.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to show my ignorance here. I didn't know that Greninja was the final evolution of a starter.
Yeah, Greninja was, I honestly feel like he was like the de facto winner of that starter group, just because personally all the other starters in that group felt like trash. I wasn't a huge fan of Greninja in the beginning, but then I played that game and I'm like, all right, I got some respect for Greninja. But yeah, he's like the only starter that didn't look like garbage in that generation, if you ask me. I feel like the grass one started off with some promise, and then it just, someone took a shit and flushed him down the toilet, and he crawled back out to get shit on again.
Well, his final evolution is spiky, looks cool. So right now I've got pulled up the best I could find, which was an image that has each starter to final evolution. So it's got starter, intermediate, final for each generation and each typing, like for Lucas to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is like the shiny version of all of them, so
Oh no!
you know, I hope color isn't like a big thing for you, but the starters are all of the little ones on the left, and they go through each one.
I think I've picked out my favorite.
Okay, point to it.
The mole things.
Okay, so
I just think the final evolution looks funny.
So what they don't have, that's hilarious. So he's pointed out Cyndaquil, but the image that I have doesn't have the fire coming out of him, so they do just look like moles.
That's fair.
This guy, Cyndaquil, usually has got like flames shooting out of his back. This one's got like a fire mane. So, but yeah, they do look like moles. That's hilarious.
See, when you put it like that,
I might have to take that back.
When you put it like that, he kind of sounds like the type of creature that Mario would just curb stomp on his way to go save Peach.
Absolutely, like that is a really accurate description.
See, the problem is I don't think there's a single one where I like all three.
Well, yeah, that's the idea. So you're not trying to pick all three. You're just trying to pick, hey, this one is the best on the far left, and then in the back, this one's the best. So it's like starter and then final.
Oh, the little cute blue penguin is the best of the first one.
I don't think anyone's going to say bad things about Piplup for you, because I think that Piplup is actually probably one of the most adorable Pokemon ever created.
I agree.
Pikachu.
I agree there.
And then for the final ones, whatever the weird flower thing is.
Point to it.
The yellow.
This guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Venusaur. Now, I think that one's some that somebody's going to probably slap you for somewhere. It's not me. I like Venusaur. But, like, you know, Venusaur gets a lot of hate.
Is it just because he's better than everyone else?
Quite the opposite. But it still has a following nonetheless.
It's I don't know. It's weird. I think because out of the other two, in that generation, you've got a giant dragon, which isn't dragon type, and then also a turtle that's got like artillery cannons in its shell. So like they're objectively really cool.
So he's the least cool one. So I would relate to him on a personal level.
Wow.
Well, it's not even the segment, like take shots at Lucas, but if you want to start that yourself, feel free.
I identify as a flower Pokemon.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Sammy, do you have your random number generator 1 to 69 pulled up?
I do not have the generator pulled up, but feel free to give that a spin for me.
Okay, we'll just give you the number. I think it's your turn to read one out. Man, it won't go over a certain threshold. We got 11.
Okay. Who were you more scared of growing up, your mom or your dad?
For me, it's a bit of a mixed bag because my dad would get like angry more often than my mom. But when my mom got really upset about something, it was dramatically worse. So it's like, initially I would say my dad, just because as far as, you know, punishments or stuff like that goes, it was more of him than my mom. But when my mom got really upset about something, when I really f***ed up, I was definitely more scared of my mom.
Interesante.
What about you, Sammy?
For me, it was definitely my mom. It was like when my dad got pissed off, it would suck, and we'd get yelled at, whatever. When my mom got pissed off, like, she meant business. Like, you would feel bad. There's a certain sadness attributed to like upsetting my mom as well. They both discipline us, they both yell at us and everything, but it's like with dad, it was kind of like, to some degree, it's like, he's got better things to do. Like, it is what it is. I'll just do better next time. Like, I learned my lesson. I feel bad, but at the end of the day, it's okay. But like, pissing off my mom very much felt like, dang, I really messed up. The world's going to end because I upset my mom, kind of deal.
Huh.
So upsetting your mom made you feel worse as a person.
Yeah. In a way.
Yeah. I don't know about scared. Like, it's really hard for me to think about this now, because, like, I can pick out some moments, usually of my dad, where, like, he was very, like, he had lost his temper. And it wasn't often. I think generally my parents, they really tried to be understanding and be a good guide to us as kids. So I don't know, the few times of being like actually afraid of my parents or scared, like they're so few and far between. It'd be my dad, but again, I don't know, my parents just weren't like that. And while they're both flawed individuals, as we all are, they have their own flaws. They're not totally, when I say flawed, I don't mean like they're total screw ups. Well, I just mean, you know, we all have our own flaws, and I could, if I wanted to, probably pick at them. But like, I think my parents did a pretty good job with my brother and I, and not being like the kind of parent who we were afraid to come to for things or to talk about to things. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
this
I like
is
how
a very like personal question.
I like how too. It's interesting. We go to different questions. We talked about the dictator messing around, but then we came to Pokemon, and it was like gloves are off. Like it's time to go deep dive. But I mean, that's something about our culture, that we're all ready to talk about Pokemon. But when it's like, hey, you know, was there experience that was rough with your parents? Like, oh, absolutely, but I'm not going to talk about it. So,
I mean, my parents were very good about solving kind of real world type problems. Like if there was a problem at school or stuff like that, they were very good about that. They were a little less on, weren't exactly the parents that I'm most comfortable talking to about like emotional, personal stuff. But that's about the biggest, I guess, dig I could do at them. Overall, I think they did a good job.
I think there's an interesting point in that. Like, I think a lot of people, like just looking at generationally, what like my generation, and like, I don't remember last time we established that I'm a little older. By about I'll say by about a decade, but I won't tell you all how much. But I've seen
3
like
decades.
through 3 decades.
Jeremiah's a vampire. He's actually 112.
Yeah, me and Keanu Reeves are tight.
Hey.
I wish that was true. Man, Keanu's awesome. But putting a pin in
that a euphemism?
You know, people who are like coming into their 20s now, or people who are like probably in their 30s, like just seeing like that age range. Generally, I see people who are like, hey, my parents were good at these things, but like, you know, maybe emotionally I felt like I could have used some more. And I think it's more of like a societal generational thing than like something that's like personal on them. Like, and I think that a lot of people are aware now and trying to make that shift to be able to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I worked with a lot of kids. I spent a good 5 or 6 years working with kids, teaching kids in a coaching role, and working in a daycare. And like, you know, the way that your kids are to you are not how they are to other people. You know, that old phrase, like it takes a village to raise a child, is like very true. Cause like I had parents who their kids maybe wouldn't listen to them, and they were great parents, but like being a stranger or being in a different role, I could like command a different type of respect. And like, for me, it was always like bringing it back to the parents, like being like, hey, like, you treat me with this kind of respect, but why aren't you doing that with your parents? Like, and that's not all kids either. Like, this is over a wide range of hundreds of kids. But, you know, so I think it's the parenthood thing's just a really complicated thing.
Well,
Definitely.
You're a different person with every, you know, person you interact with socially. You put on a different, I guess, persona when you're talking with your parents or your boss or just hanging out with your friends.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are. I think it's something that actually is maybe something a lot of people struggle with. There's definitely like, you're drawn to people who are authentic in all like forms of their life, you know, like people who are consistent, like no matter what venue you're in. So I think that's a really interesting just thought. But yeah, that's why I don't know how everybody else feels about it, even in this room versus anybody listening, but like that's why whenever I see kids like giving their parents a hard time at a grocery store, like sometimes I'll jump in and be like, yo, why are you giving your mom such a hard time? Like, she's like carting you around, trying to get you fed, and all you doing is giving her trouble. And it's great to see kids who just like stop and are like, a stranger's telling this to me. Like, what do other people notice? And, you get a varying reaction from parents, but generally I've had positive where they're like, hey, see, look, everybody else sees you're being a little crap right now. And like,
I think this is the type of behavior that would, very easily be remedied by just the slightest bit of institutionalized labor, because you learn things like respect in the workplace.
You're not wrong. I like that. Bring it full circle. Full circle. Democracy.
And if they don't shape up, into the hamster wheel.
Into
if they
the
still
hamster
don't
wheel,
shape
fam.
up, it's time for them to get some knowledge and go to the library.
Okay, maybe not kids.
Hey.
Kids have a chance.
In this instance, the library is not a kill zone. It's PvP is not enabled.
See,
Sure.
all I'm thinking of is like a kid in school, like, all right, Johnny, you messed up. So while all the other kids go to the computer lab to play computer games, you're going to run the hamster wheel and let them play. So how do you like that? It's just like...
They get to play Bloons Tower Defense. You get to pretend to be a balloon.
And then, like, a kid just stops running on the hamster wheel. I don't want to do this anymore. And then there's just, like, some person in, like, BDSM gear with a whip, just a gimp mask and everything. Like, go!
Whoa, man, we're back to
No, it's like
dark.
Squid Game. You put Oculus Rift or some other, headset thing on, and so they think they're playing as one of the monkeys in Bloons Tower Defense. What they don't realize is the tract is a real thing, and there's, the bad kids are coming down the track.
I think that defeats the purpose of punishment. Hey, let me just pretend like your punishment is actually good. Like, nah, let's be straight with it. I want them to be in a room that smells like an old boxing gym, and they're just like staring at like a wall where like the paint is peeling.
No, the room would smell like flowers and other pleasant things, because it's a reward for the kids who are good. And the kids who are bad, they'll never forget that. They'll do anything.
Are we talking about the room with the hamster wheel or a different room? Like, the room with the guy who's...
The hamster wheel
who's cosplaying as the gimp?
Power the virtual headsets to allow the good kids... So it's like 3 stages. If you're a really good kid, you got all A's and you didn't beat up the cripples, you get to go and play Bloons Tower Defense in real life. If you're a bad kid, but also didn't beat up the cripples, you get to go to the hamster wheel. If you beat up the cripples or other undesirables of society,
Damn.
That's not nice, you're a balloon now. You have an inflated ego like a balloon. It's time to let the pressure out.
Okay.
So, moral of the story is, don't let Lucas become a dictator.
I would
pretty
be
much
a great dictator.
Well, it's
to myself.
It's funny because I think we've presented some simple solutions, and then you're like, hey, I see that, but let me engineer it a little better. And it feels very over-engineered. It's like when you're like looking through a house and like, or a fix, and like all somebody would need to do is use some like gaff tape or duct tape. And instead you're like, hey, I know what to do. And you see this like crazy contraption made of paper clips and glue. And you're like, wow, that works. So we spent a lot of time on this.
Well, think about it. Let's say you're dead, hypothetically.
Uh-oh. I think he's becoming the dictator.
And you were not a good person. You made fun of Jill, and that's not nice, and little Jimmy, the cripple. And so you've gone to the bad place. You're in hell now. I like to imagine that hell is just full of Rube Goldberg machines of suffering. Because with so many centuries down there, I have to imagine the devil's just got more and more complicated in how... I mean, for the first, few centuries, yeah, you stab him in the dick, and that's their eternal punishment. But after a while, you get bored of stabbing dicks, and so you're like, alright, this marble's going to roll down this path, knock into this block, it's going to swing a crane around with a bowling ball on it, and that's going to hit you in the dick.
One more time for the people in the back.
Disclaimer here, Sammy, I'm going to need you to call me in an hour and make sure that I'm still alive. Two, I don't think they ever just, were stabbing people in the genitals. Look at all the way back to Greece, where you can see, the Hades mythos. You already have Sisyphus. You already have, people pushing boulders up impossible hill that the boulder always roll down. A guy who's always trying to drink water but never can. You already got these, sort of existential... long-term punishments that, make a lot more sense. They're a lot more, nagging over the centuries.
Yeah, but that was before, the Industrial Revolution and, complicated machinery. I feel once that was introduced into the world, the devil would be like, oh, I like that.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Really fancy.
I'm agreeing with you there.
You don't like the idea of being stabbed in the dick?
My argument is I think that that's probably was never really on the table.
I feel back in caveman days, that's about all he would be able to think of.
What? All right, Sammy. This
you
is
were
why
a
there's
bad
3 of us
caveman.
Here. What is the?
You drew naughty pictures on the wall in blood or ink.
Sammy,
or something.
how sophisticated do you think the caveman devil is?
I don't think I have the wherewithal to really put myself in these shoes, fam. I feel like even a stab in the dick is, in a different realm of torture than rolling a boulder up a hill up and down,
What punishment do you think would correlate to getting stabbed in the dick for eternity versus, some other less stabby punishment?
Let's see.
Having an STI and sleeping with someone without telling them. Beforehand, and you do it anyway.
I feel like that would be setting your genitals on fire as the punishment.
Well, there's some kind of
I feel like the step up of being stabbed in the dick is being seduced by a very attractive person, and then their genitals are hiding secret blades, and then you get stuck.
Oh man,
that's pretty brutal.
I unconsciously crossed my legs when you said that.
I'm gonna have major trust issues after this.
Welcome to my mind.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move this party train along with 10 right next to our last one. What is your favorite dark joke?
Man, that one hurts me more than the baby one, I think.
If you could marry one fictional character, who would you pick? Oh, so we're on the opposite end, because now we're to, love and joy and...
Marry one who?
Fictional character.
Yo, give me Storm from X-Men.
Ooh. Very strong pick.
That sex would be electric. Hey, yo!
Oh, god damn it.
Very powerful woman. I don't know. Drawn to powerful women. What about you, Lucas?
But those
I would make sure...
Those fights would be, insane.
No, we talk it out. We'd have a good, loving relationship with great communication, and every time we hit the bedroom, we'd fuck up the atmosphere regionally. It's fine.
Regionally? I don't feel like Storm is known for her extreme anger all the time.
No, she's a chill person as far as I
Yeah,
can
just
remember.
chill.
I just had like a moment where I was like trying to think of what Storm's name is, and it is eluding me. I just always call her Storm.
Aurora.
Is it Aurora?
Her name's... Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah, I like that as a name.
It
Good
is.
name.
It is pretty. Well, now, would it be like the standard? Oh, Aurora. Yeah. Would it be like standard X-Men Storm, or are we talking like would you upgrade to the Amalgam Comics where Storm and Wonder Woman became one person?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't think I could handle the super strength. I need to stay in one piece after every session. You know?
Oh,
It would be the last thing you did, but it'd be a glorious way to go out.
you imagine going.
That is a beautiful way to die.
You imagine going to heaven after that, like, hey, how'd you die? Like,
I don't know if you would go to heaven after that.
Well, it's, you're in the afterlife, whatever.
You know, I had
choose.
my head crushed in between a pair of
after-
thighs like a watermelon.
After you're married and it's beautiful in the eyes of God, like, yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, just, like, pick your afterlife, but you're talking to other people. Like, how'd you die? Arrow to the knee. And then, you're like, well, you know who Storm is? And then, there's probably some people you got to explain, like, who died, like, 200 years ago. Like,
a tornado killed you? What?
Well, regionally.
I was spinning.
Wow. Lucas, you got a top pick?
I honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to think of... What's the sister of... I'm just blanking on names right now. Black Widow in the Black Widow movie.
Oh, Yelena.
Yeah.
I don't
Nice.
know anything about Yelena. Tell me, who is this person?
It's just the not biological sister, but like in the same like training academy that Black Widow was trained in, so essentially like a sister in the Black Widow movie.
Okay, well, explain to me the draw, because like
Sammy
says,
funny.
Sammy says Storm, and like I don't even have to be like, well, why would you pick Storm? Just like, yeah, man, that tracks. That's a good pick. But when you say Yelena, I'm like, okay, like what's?
She's funny. She's got a nice accent.
You're just drawn to the accent
and the personality. I mean, she's also
You sound so
attractive,
basic right now.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yes.
Says the person who chose Storm.
Whoa.
Just a generic, attractive
Storm.
superhero.
Whoa.
Storm
I chose
is
someone
far from generic.
with less, less well-known, more of a...
Look, man.
I don't want to
How
say
can you call
refined
Storm-
taste, but...
How can you say she's generic when, one, she's royalty, okay. Two, then she got married into royalty again. Okay. Her powers extend beyond planet Earth. She can control cosmic winds, my dude. She can use her powers in other planets, my dude. And you chose a pleb who can fight good?
I chose someone
outta
for
here.
their personality.
No, he said, and we can roll it back. He chose her for her accent.
No, okay, the accent was part of it.
Look, I'm just gonna, Lucas. Yeah, I know you're defending yourself here, but I don't think an adequate defense in this case is attacking Sammy's pick of Storm, because, dude, Storm's got it going on, man. Like, she
gotta go with her.
She's like practically the second in command of the X-Men. You got
fine.
You got Charles, you got
Fine.
Scott Summers, and then really we all listen to Storm.
Zatanna.
Okay. I've got to show my ignorance again. Who is Zatanna?
She's like a magical chick.
She is a magic wielder. Yeah.
Wait, is this that DC character who got the top hat? She dressed as a magician.
Yep.
That's basic. Gotta give him that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that character.
I only know that she's a playable character in Injustice, and she has cool magic stuff.
What, in the first one or the second one?
I've only played the first one.
Okay. I only played the second one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are in it. That's all I needed in my life.
Oh.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't really. You guys attacked my first choice. I was trying to go for something not super mainstream, and well, it's up to you, Jeremiah.
Hey, there's a reason that things get picked mainstream. You know, like
it's like I would go Supergirl, like the adult version, obviously.
What, dude? Nobody was thinking of not the adult version. Except for you.
I wanted to clarify.
Okay, if we're talking versions, give me that Halle Berry version of Storm. All right, that's icing on the cake.
Man, that's getting even better, man. He just
woo. I think I win.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
I'm kidding.
Well, this isn't against you. This is just like, man, now he's getting more specific about which Storm. Like, it's not a bad Storm pick.
All right, I'm about ready to move on. But wait, we need to hear Jeremiah.
Oh man, man, I'm gonna be lame here because I just like somebody's like, what fictional character would you marry? And like my real first response is like, yeah, they're fictional. I'm not marrying them. I'm gonna go find a real human being. Sorry for any of you who got waifus out there, but yeah, man, okay, I'm gonna go for something really, really off kilter. We've all played video games here. Have you guys ever played the Supergiant games? They've made like 4 games. They made Hades, they made Pyre, they made Transistor, they made Bastion. You guys ever played any of those?
Nope.
I know Hades, but I don't recognize the other ones.
Well, Hades was a huge game. So the game that came out with before Hades was called Pyre, and it is a visual novel about wizard soccer.
Okay.
This sounds stupid as hell, but I would Captain Jodariel. She'd be powerful. And if you gotta do a Google search and see who she is, like she's like on the team, she's like a bastion of strength. She like protects the other team members. Yeah, that's it. She's been living in basically purgatory for long enough that she's transitioning from human into a demon. But I don't know. It's a visual novel, so you get to know the characters a lot. But
that's an interesting choice. She's got giant ram horns, like
because she's turning into a demon. Hashtag. There's my plug for Pyre, but
I feel like that would hurt her neck.
Well, like they become bigger. Like the humans who are turning into a demon from being in the purgatory for long enough also become like physically like bigger. Like they start to turn into like giants and grow horns. But yeah, Captain Jodariel.
All right, that was a very
interesting pick.
And now anyone who's listening to this is like, what is this game? Wizard soccer? Like, what the heck is wrong with this person?
It just sounds like
Wizard
Quidditch,
soccer.
but without flying.
No, it's more like basketball. Like the game you can dunk and you can shoot. Look, it's a really weird thing.
How is it like soccer then?
Because they like move around the magic orb. They ponder their orb. Look, man, it's just like I was after their second game, I almost didn't even go for their third game because I got the second game at release and it was a little buggy and it was like not a great experience, even though the game was pretty good, but definitely not a smash hit like their first one. And then I read an interview with the president of Supergiant Games, of the guy who leads everything, and they're like, it was the era of AAA games that all looked very the same. They're like, well, don't you think you should make games for everyone? They said, no, we make games that appeal to people who buy them. We don't make games for everyone. I was like, that's a strong statement. I'm going to try your game because of that. Like, if you're willing to be like, hey, we're confident in what we're putting out. We don't care if it's not for everyone. I'm like, well, man, that's so ballsy. I'm going to buy it.
Well, you can't make everyone happy, so I think it's a futile attempt to try and do that.
Right. And you know, I think a lot of people get into that, like rut where they're trying to make everyone happy instead of just being like, hey, I'm going to make my vision. And I mean, like, there are other things in that interview got me. Like, they have a dog that you can play in the game who's got a mustache. And apparently in the design, at the design table, everyone was like everyone got heated like Supergiant Games isn't a huge game studio. There's like 10 people on their team at that time. And they were like yelling back and forth whether this dog should have a mustache or not. And the lead of the game like was just sitting back hearing this. He's like, hey, this should be a choice in the game. Like, it doesn't have any bearing on the gameplay. It doesn't have any bearing on like the story. But the dog asks you, his name's Rookie. He's like, hey, do you like my mustache? And he lets the players decide whether he's going to have a mustache or not. But the cool thing about that choice is if you say, no, I don't like that mustache is never coming back. Like, it's never like, oh, should I bring it back? It's like you've made a choice and there's a finality to it, which is a really cool part of the game.
And that's why he's in charge, is because he can make those calls.
Well, yeah, and there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff about that game. Like, if you lose in the game, like, you don't ever lose. Like, it just is a complete narrative. And he told a story about his daughter, because they put a reset feature in the game, so if you lost, you could replay it to, like, make the game come out how you wanted. And at the end of the game, she's playing against the final, like, boss. And the basic premise is all these characters are they're competing to get out of purgatory. And so she had planned out her whole, like, story on, hey, here's who I'm going to free. Here's these characters who I like, and here's the order I'm going to free them in. And she replayed that last match like 30 or 40 times because she wanted her character to go home. And finally, she tells her dad, the lead of the studio, like, hey, I finally won. And he's like, oh, who'd you send home? Did you finally send your character? And she's like, I sent home the villain. And he was like, why would you do that? You played the game 30 or 40 times. Like, you kept refreshing to beat him. Why did you do that? And she said, I felt that he had earned it. And by me replaying it, I had cheated him of going home. So I sent him home. I think that's a really powerful thing. Like, that interview and that line right there sold me on buying that game. Because I'm like, if you can unintentionally create such a powerful choice in like a 12-year-old kid to like think about that, like, it's worth a shot. So, sorry, I got off on a real tangent.
No, that's
sounds really dope.
I wonder what the repercussions of sending the villain home would be.
He's not like, you'd have to play the game. I don't want to do a big spoiler, but he's like, he becomes the villain because he was denied like his way of going home. And like, it's just, the game is narratively really good. Supergiant Games, their games have like real narratives that aren't just like, oh, here's the thing. Like, they're like involved stories, kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, if any game studio has consistently produced games that are really good quality with story, music, it's been Supergiant. That's why they've, like, in 12 years, 14 years, they've produced like 4 games, but they're all
quality over quantity.
Yeah. Well, and they say like each game that they make, that might be the end of their studio. Like, so I don't know.
Living on the edge. So I think we've been recording for about an hour and a half. You guys want to call it here, or? Man, I think it's time. Yeah, first time.
I think so.
Like, clip that audio and let's see if it came out.
Let's see what we end up with. Yeah.
All right, and killing it. 3, 2, 1.